Hi, everyone, and I'm Akintokun Omowumi. I bring with me over a decade of experience in information security, software engineering, and IT leadership. Across the course of my career, I've had the privilege of standing in the forefront of cybersecurity, investigating high-profile cyber attack, uncovering root causes, and providing mitigation strategies that have not only safeguarded organizations, but shaped industry policy. Today, I'm here to draw from that experience, share insight and strategies that can help us collectively fortify our cyber defense. The threats we are faced with are evolving daily, but together with the right knowledge and collaboration, we can stay ahead of the curve. So let's dive in and strengthen the security of our digital world together. To start with, let's consider a scenario. In this instance, an attacker has successfully gained access to a compromised admin credential. We all know what that means. This is a golden weapon in the hand of a threat actor. Using this credential, they access sensitive customer data, leading to 100 million loss. The question is this: could your organization withstand such a breach? Well, the answer depends on the nature and the significance of your business. This is a typical example of an IAM failure. As we all know, IAM framework is a combination of policies and processes that ensure the right people have access to the right resources based on their function and business processes. So in this session, we will look at the strategic implication of IAM failures, the key vulnerabilities in privilege escalation and insider threat, and then we'll focus on strategies and control to help us mitigate the threat and fortify our defense. When you look at security, I like to put it side by side as a building. In a building, we have different layers, different compartments, different areas with different set of controls. Also in cybersecurity, we do security by design and we embrace defense in depth to ensure that controls are in place to safeguard different threat or activity coming from the threat actors. A building standing strong portrays the image of being able to withstand adverse circumstances. But when calamity strikes, the situation might not be the same. So also with IAM failures, strategic implications of IAM failures include operational disruptions to business services and offering. Poor IAM system can lead to unauthorized access, compromising the critical system, and disrupting business operation. We begin to ask, is there a BCP plan in place? Is it tested to ensure that critical enterprise functions can still go on during this period? That is one element of strategic implication of IAM failure, business disruption. How long can the business stay down without having huge impact on the processes of the organization? Second to that is financial repercussion of IAM failure. Data breaches caused by IAM failure often result in hefty fines and lawsuits. This includes the cost of downtime and recovery costs. Is there cyber insurance in place that can cushion the effect of this? These are things that organizations begin to think about. And much more. Furthermore, we look at reputational damage. Customers lose trust when organizations fail to protect sensitive data, leading to long-term reputational damage. How can organizations maintain and rebuild trust? Oftentimes, we see drop in share price, for instance, following a cyber attack. Not forgetting regulatory non-compliance that come as a result of IAM failure, cyber attack, data breach. Depending on the size and the presence of the organization, different compliance requirements will come to effect. Furthermore, we'll take a deeper look at IAM vulnerabilities. Having considered the strategic implication of IAM failure, what are those vulnerabilities? What are the weaknesses that the threat actor look out for? And with that, they are able to achieve their aim. For the sake of the time frame that we have, we'll focus on privilege escalation and insider threats. With all the implemented control, we are still faced with this threat, and we need to carefully consider and assess what we've done in that light. Looking at some 2023 data breach reports, 74% of breaches involve human elements. With all the security controls that have been implemented, we all agree that human factor remain a huge challenge when we begin to look at our security infrastructure as a whole. The human element is very critical, and the threat actor leverages these to be able to achieve their aim, either through social engineering, phishing, or vishing, different methods that they use to be able to get across and obtain credentials from people. CrowdStrike 2024 Global Threat Report also highlights the speed of modern adversary. After the initial breach, it takes only a few seconds for the attacker to deploy tools and malware. And of interest is that 88% of the attack focus on gaining initial access. And after gaining initial access, they can now increasingly bypass controls in place by deploying malware. But much more, what has been noticed over time recently is that attackers rely on identity attack. They use phishing and social engineering, exploiting vulnerability to be able to take that initial access a step further. And this is a shift in what has been observed over time, that more of malware-free activity account for 75% of detection in 2023. As we begin to narrow down on privilege escalation, we all know what privilege escalation is. It's as a result of misconfigured role, excessive permission that allow attacker to be able to escalate privileges. And at the root of it, we're looking at lack of role-based access control, misaligned access provisioning, or not applying security patches early on, and also supply chain and third-party risk. In the case of Capital One in 2019, we see a case where an attacker was able to leverage on the misconfiguration in the AWS web application firewall to be able to exploit the server-side request forgery, as affecting over 100 million individuals in US and 6 million in Canada. Another case also is MOVEit vulnerability that targets organization supply chains rather than the organization directly directly. And there's nearest neighbor attack also that exploit the weaknesses in Wi-Fi network, not directly the organization, but rather using a neighboring organization with probably weaker control to be able to connect to the Wi-Fi of that organization and compromise the environment. Initially, they conducted password spray against the public entry, but the attempt was not successful because of MFA. And they looked at alternative routes going through a nearby organization, which means when we begin to look at privilege escalation, we are looking at it from security vulnerability itself in our environment. We are looking at third-party supply chain and the people that are involved in the organization. And all this must come together in our approach to address these vulnerabilities. Inside that threat, we know these are people that have access in the environment. They are known faces. They understand the logic. They understand the flow of transaction in our environment. And malicious insider, they misuse the access privileges, either intentionally or accidentally, to compromise system. And one of the key things is the absence of monitoring of this behavior of the privileged users and lack of regular access review. From my interaction in course of investigating fraud and cyber attack, I realized that people that have access, privileged access, for instance, in particular scenario, this individual was able to create users on the enterprise application to initiate transactions. And they did this during off-peak hour, used the new users he created to raise transaction and able to raise fraudulent transaction. And you know the result, loss of funds, loss of money. That privileged user was not monitored adequately to be able to understand the deviation in the activity of the user. And other scenario that I worked on, this involves a bank, and this particular insider, what it does is that you understand the limit on transaction, you understand the notification system, you understand when people that monitor the fraudulent transaction, when they normally have their meeting. And what the individual did was to raise transaction below the threshold and also ensure that this activity was done when people that are monitoring are in a meeting, and also ensure that notification service it shut down the notification service during that period when it was able to raise this transaction, and the detection system could not notice the abnormality because it seems odd, it seems normal to the system. And that's the power of insider trade. And that also means as an organization, as a cybersecurity professional, we need to begin to rethink how we handle insider trade by zeroing more on monitoring and looking at the controls in terms of processes within the organization. Identity management is not just a critical component of cybersecurity, it's a cornerstone of enterprise resilience and agility. We can't but focus more on identity. As our path forward, what do we do? IAM is not just a technology, it is all-inclusive. We need to embrace IAM as an organization, as a security professional, as normal business user. We need to all embrace IAM and see it as a bedrock of our cybersecurity. Audit your current IAM framework. What do you currently have? So that you'll be able to identify the gaps in the current IAM framework that you have. And by the way of people, technology, and process, one thing is key: the culture, the security culture of the organization is very important. That enables collaboration with the security team and IT team. In terms of technology, security controls are implemented: multi-factor, zero trust, AI-enabled tools to be able to detect anomaly behavior. We need to zero in on that and ensure that we have these controls in place to monitor. In terms of process, we need to begin to review the change and exposure management. From one of my investigations, the error that came through change management created a loophole where attacker was able to leverage on that to achieve their aim. So change management is also a crucial thing that the organization needs to pay attention to, and exposure management beyond vulnerability management. We need to play a key consideration. We need to consider exposure management as part of the strategy of the organization. And when we put all this together and continuously monitor, we are able to promptly detect and respond to cyber attack. As we know, it is not a matter of if, it is when, and our ability to prepare for this and respond quickly. That means the difference between overcoming or succumbing to cyber attack. Thank you.